Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining my webinar that will focus on newcomers and settlement and how we can create a welcoming school environment. My name is Leanne Brownell, and I'm the EAL consultant with HRCE. So a brief overview of what we'll be talking about in this webinar. We're going to touch on creating welcoming spaces, developing partnerships, the importance of building relationships with students, and valuing their home languages. I'm going to touch on Language Ambassadors Club and the importance of ongoing communication and collaboration with staff members, including outside agencies. So, what are some things that we can do to create welcoming spaces in our school and classroom? You could have a world map that indicates where the students are from. We can have multilingual signs around the office, the library, the cafeteria, the music room, the gymnasium. We can have flags that represent where our students are from. Maybe you want the students to create their own welcome signs in different languages. So this is a piece of where we're valuing their home language and respecting it. And that's, very encouraging for students that are existing at the school, but also very important for new families to see when they do enter the building. Maybe having objects labeled in English and in various other languages. So whether or not students can actually read their home language or not, they are able to recognize it as their language and just kind of instills a sense of pride and just a sense of, belonging. So, right from the start is your opportunity to establish and develop a meaningful partnership with the families. So, ways we can do that is to be friendly and happy that they are there. This helps them feel welcomed and valued. A lot of times they might not have the language to communicate, but a friendly smile goes a long way. Sometimes because they might not have the language to understand, they're very in tune with facial expressions and, being able to, I don't know, kind of pick up on how you're feeling. So if you can put them at ease with a kind smile, it goes a long way. At the registration process, which is looking a little bit different these days because now it's an online process and we're still trying to navigate how that is going to look for newcomers. But regardless if they're there to register or they're there for their first day and they're going to have a little orientation, it's very important to have a member on staff who speaks the same language. Give a tour of the school. Are there translators there? Be sure that you just set aside an appropriate amount of time. You as a school can decide who wants to be part of this orientation or the intake, whether that be the school admin team, the EAL teacher, a member of the YMCA school settlement team. You can work that out, but it's just some things to take into consideration. It's a good opportunity to be learning about students' prior schooling. What are they interested in? Do they have siblings? Will they be going to the same school or a neighboring school? This is the opportune time to be providing information about what the expectations of school are, the routines, the bell schedules, appropriate outdoor footwear. For example, sometimes newcomer families don't realize that they have to pick their student up at the bell and they'll leave them unattended on the playground. So that's an example of something that, should be established from the get-go. Building relationships with students is key. I haven't mentioned it here yet. When a student who is new to English and new to our country and just our culture, it's very, there's a lot of different things that are happening in terms of a new culture. Everything is new. The food is new. The friends are new. If it might sound like white noise to them, making friends, just behaving on the playground. All of these things are new. So the first thing to really establish is a positive relationship with the students, having a safe, caring, welcoming class. Because once a student does feel safe, it really opens them up to being then ready to learn. So there are a few things that need to kind of be established for some really good learning to take place. So, some ways that we can create a safe and welcoming environment were previously mentioned. So, having dual language, multi language signs, being welcoming and smiling. Smile and say their name correctly. Now, I know sometimes names can be difficult to pronounce, and some younger students, especially, might not understand accents. And so, the important piece here is to at least try your very best to say their name. There are some sounds that are very difficult for us, but we really want to, the takeaway from this is to avoid coming up with a shortened name, coming up with a nickname or a new name. So, really make a good, honest effort. If you have other students that speak the same language, maybe you want to sit them with a peer who does speak that language. If you don't have that as an option, maybe you want to stick them with, not stick them with, but um, buddy them with someone who, a student that is empathetic and compassionate and outgoing and maybe has demonstrated some leadership capabilities. So, um, that's always nice that they have someone that they can connect with and ask questions and just kind of, they can show them the ropes. Learn a couple of greetings in their language. That goes a long way. So, a hello, a thank you, see you soon, you're welcome. Sometimes the students love to teach other students how to say their alphabet or how to write and say numbers to 10, how to count to 10. Um, you'll see here in this bottom, we've got a student's name and then it's written in Korea. A younger student who went and made name tags for all the students and he wrote all of their names in Korean. So they loved it. It was a really great way to kind of make friends and show, like, just because I can't read in English yet or write in English yet doesn't mean I can't write in Korean. So it's, a great way to make friendships, feeling safe that they can share what they know. Um, Having visuals for a schedule, visuals for bathroom, snack, drink, feeling sick. So even just some of the basic needs you might want to have visuals for. And cooperative learning opportunities is very, very valuable. I know a lot of research talks about the importance of cooperative learning opportunities. Recently, there was a survey done with HRCE newcomer students. Now, it was at the secondary level, however, it's applicable really to all grades. Um, in their own student voice, they expressed the value of group work. So they said, I can be with English, I can learn English, I can have an English friend, I can maybe if there is someone, there's other cultures that they get to connect with. So it helps them understand better. It taught them new words. It clarified some things. So there was a kind of a whole range of um, what's the word I'm looking for? Responses. And they weren't really, nothing was even asked about group work or cooperative learning opportunities. It was just answers that they provided themselves. And the answers were frequent enough that it was, I was able to kind of code it as something that was a recurring response. So sometimes I think when we have new students, we think, oh, I'm just going to put them with, some kids of their own language so that they're comfortable or they're shy or they're quiet or regardless if they're speaking or not, they're being exposed to authentic English experience. And, of course, the goal is academic, but there are other benefits that come from cooperative learning opportunities, anyhow. So continue doing that. And if you're not, start using group activities, because it's a lot of impact, positive impact for student learning and engagement. Valuing their home language and culture. So it's really important that we tap into the background and the experiences that these students are bringing with them. It's very important that we encourage them to be using their first language as a support as they acquire English. So if they are able to read and write in their home language, they are encouraged to be doing that. I think I don't want to get ahead of myself. Oh, it's the bottom one. Halifax Public Library has a growing library collection of books in other languages, in dual languages. I also know that Sora through GNSPES, if you are with HRCE, also has a growing number of books available in other languages. And we're also gaining more access to these resources. Um, Before it would be maybe some of the classics in literature or the Shakespeare plays, but now we're seeing, you know, books, Harry Potter books, or just more diverse authors that are putting books out in English or home languages, or other languages. So we're really trying to establish a better collection of titles. Uh, Incorporate aspects of their culture in your teaching. So go beyond posters and holidays, but really be mindful of what resources you're using. So whether you're using storybooks or whether you're using novel studies, um, even when you're giving examples, try and include their culture so that it's not so Eurocentric, but it's a little bit more diverse. Read alouds are important for all grades. Um, it's a way to, and I guess this is a little bit academic, but it's a way to model what fluent reading sounds like, and develop story vocabulary. But it's also a really important way to just reflect various cultures, have visitors in, have family members in. Maybe they're going to do an art lesson. Maybe they're going, have some poetry. Maybe they're going to come and read a story. Maybe one person will read it in English and the other person will read it in their language. It's just really about exposure and students feeling valued and seen, but also about educating other students about other cultures. And I've mentioned before, the public library has a growing collection, and the school library. So if you want to, HRCE EAL library has a growing collection of dual language books, and so does Sora. That is for HRCE, but this might be a conversation that you can have with, you know, your school principal, or if you're an EAL teacher, the person that you report to within your region. You can also connect with Peru McKinnon, the EAL consultant with EECD, or myself if you want to locate some other resources. So here are a few visuals of some ways that different schools have incorporated, or classrooms have incorporated, home language and culture. This one here with the tree, and it's probably hard for you to see, but it's the I Wonder Wall. This was out of Grosvenor Wentworth in Halifax. Uh, they do up a wonder wall in their front entrance, and they have it in different languages, and they put up, an I wonder. So it'll be a topic or a question for discussion, and it's just a place to have conversations, to see your language there, to have a chance to, be using your language to talking to peers. Maybe your friend speaks another language, maybe you're comparing the two. So it's just a great way to see the students come together, be talking about something, learning something new, but also making a different kind of connection, whether it be to meeting a new friend of the same language, not knowing that they did speak your language, or comparing languages. So it was very interactive, and they've had a lot of success with this. The second is this very colorful list of words. This was a grade 4, grade 5 class, and there was a little fella from Mexico, and they taught each other words. So he would teach some of the students words in Spanish and vice versa, and they would choose different words that the students thought were important. So whether that come from a book they read or a conversation that they were having, then the students would go up and write the word down, and then the other student would go up and write them in their language. And this was just one. I mean, this was on a flip chart, and I don't know by the end of it how many lists they had, but uh, it was just a great way to kind of break down that initial barrier of being new and not understanding. So this little fellow was able to share, all he could do in Spanish. The English kids thought it was great, and it really set him up for a very successful year. The third one is the Better Word Wall. This was a grade 6 class, and this actually benefited all the students. We wanted to further develop the language for the EAL students, that academic vocabulary piece. But we also, the classroom teacher said, in writing, all the kids are using really boring, flat words. I said, she said, they said, well, they walked. And it's just very dull. And so we created this Better Word Wall. So you'll see the kind of boring word, smart, scary, said, walk, run, sad. And then underneath is Korean. And then inside the pockets are, synonyms for those words. So smart might have been clever, intelligent. And then it's all, dual language. So the classroom teacher really liked this and actually used it for a couple of years. So that was good to see. So yeah, it was great that it really benefited everyone. And it was just, you're not really singling out the other students that speak a different language, because they saw other students using it as well. So it was just a way to support vocabulary development for the EAL student and enrich vocabulary for the other students. So it was just it worked out really well. And the final one here, this was for a younger group. We did some letter sounds, and we did some spelling in English, Turkish, and Spanish. So we would look at the visual and we would spell the word in English, and then the Turkish student, we would phonetically spell it in Turkish, and then the Spanish student phonetically spelled it in Spanish. And so great way to teach them the letter sounds, to make connections to their home language. I can't personally find this in research anywhere, but just in my experiences, I have had incredible, incredible success when you use words from another language, but use the English alphabet. So, for example, butterfly in Turkish is kelebek. Well, we can identify the K, the L, the B, the R, the K. And depending on where they are, if we want to incorporate vowels or not, but if we want to listen for consonants, they know what a butterfly, they know that that's kelebek, and it went really well. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and the student will give me the word in their language, and it's a sound that we cannot make or spell, it doesn't exist. And I just kind of laugh or smile and say, oh, it doesn't work in English. And they chuckle, and we move on. But I've had a lot of success with this little teaching tip. So it's a way of valuing their home language. They can show what they've learned, and they're also, using that English alphabet. So kind of twofold there. The high school level, we do have a few texts available in other languages. There's a place up in Ontario called youarespecial.com. They specialize in dual language books or books in other languages. Uh, so we've got a fair amount of Shakespeare titles and a couple of classics that they can access. This one here on the orange poster, this is a grade 10 English assignment, and they had to analyze a song lyric or a poem and make connections and write a summary about it. So, you know, language and songs can be quite difficult for an EAL student to understand. So, in this instance, the student was able to use a song that he liked. It's a Russian song, it was popular, that's what he chose. And he was able to have some visuals to represent some of the things from this song. And then what you don't see here is he did submit a written summary of, what the song was about, and the connection that he had made to the song. So this is one way of using home language to not only support content, but also to just be valuing their home language. The Language Ambassadors Club. I did this actually a number of years ago. We created a task force of students that were bilingual and multilingual that wanted to become a part of a group that was responsible to welcome new students and support them. I went around to grades fives and sixes, so they were older students and not on the EAL caseload. Some of them were, some of them weren't, some of them were just bilingual or multilingual students. So I asked, who here speaks another language at home? And are you interested in being part of a club that we meet? We would do signs, maybe we would do artwork for classrooms, for hallways, for entrances. I created a list of names so they could act as interpreters, just in sort of emergency situations for non-sensitive information. So if there was a little one in a lower elementary class that was upset about something and couldn't communicate what was wrong, then the teachers had access to a list of students in other classes. So they would just call in and say, could you send Aaliyah down or whatnot? And they could be involved in bringing a little bit of diversity into assemblies. So this went really well. Students were engaged, and we were able to create some really nice signs for around the school. And the teachers did actually refer to the list of students for certain situations. They could reach out and kind of navigate some issues when some students were upset, and we could figure out what they were trying to communicate. So definitely worthwhile. So communication and collaboration, we hear this a lot, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of it. As an EAL teacher or a classroom teacher, it is so, so important to just be communicating on a regular basis about the supports that EAL students may need. Some students and families are connected through the YMCA school settlement program, and some of the information that they have that they can share with you is very insightful and very helpful in terms of supporting students. Uh, they also have clubs and events and programs that it's important for the students to be knowing about, that they can have access to, share opportunities with families about community events and clubs. So maybe what is HRM putting on for rec? And it's also important to communicate to families the importance of a home language. So I don't know, when I was teaching a few years ago, for parent teacher interviews or conferences, I created a display board about the importance of maintaining home language, and I had brochures available in multiple languages. So there was some interest from families. Sometimes there is that myth of we're in Canada now, you must speak English only. Couldn't be farther from the truth. And so any chance I had to interact with families or had established that relationship, I always encourage them and share the importance of keep your home language. They have to maintain their home language. The other thing I used to do, which really, even in my role, I should continue with, and it's in my planning for next year to get ahead of things, coming up with some community events and clubs and camps that are available to all students. YMCA support is offered to students of certain immigration status and not necessarily temporary residents. Uh, so I think it's important that maybe it's nice to have a list of what's going on in the community for various seasons, especially in the summer when they're out of school. It's good to have them engaged with something. So, great idea to kind of come up with a list of what's happening in our community, in our city. All right, I guess that is it. So I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time out to participate in this webinar. Just thank you for all the support you give to newcomer students and, just the interest by participating and showing, a level of engagement and that you're open to learning more about how we can better support our students. If you have any questions or comments, I can be reached at lbrownell@hrce.ca. LBROWNELL at hrce.ca. Thank you.